Today we're at Dev Connections, and my guest is Seth Juarez. How you doing, sir?
Great, I'm awesome.
How you enjoying the conference?
I think it's pretty good today. Pretty good so far. I've met a lot of people. It's fun to come to conference. I love being in conference mode.
I do too. I saw a really good session this morning.
Oh, did you?
It was your session. It was design patterns, and your demos all included the Kinect API.
Yeah. So I did this talk in St. Louis a couple of months ago, and the challenge with a patterns talk is it can be either really dry or just super boring. And so I decided
Those are the two options: dry or boring.
It just seems like it could be, right? And so my worry was that the demos that I have are just kind of cheesy.
Yeah.
And so what I decided to do is I'm going to stay up tonight and I'm going to hook in the Kinect and I'm going to try to make it interesting visually so that when I do the design patterns, they can see something happening and hear something happening. And so there was a lot of that involved. I wanted it to be an interesting topic because design patterns is an important sort of thing that we use as software developers.
Okay, so let's just focus for this show on the exciting part of it, which was the Kinect development.
Yes.
And it's exciting for me not only because it's visual, eye-candy, stuff like that, but because I've never done any of it.
Okay.
So can you help me out? How would I get started?
Absolutely. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go to research.microsoft.com, I think /Kinect, and there is some Microsoft drivers that you can use to actually get started with the Kinect. Now, let me tell you a little bit about what the Kinect actually offers you, which is pretty cool.
All right, we should probably show this.
Yeah. There it is.
So buy one of those.
Let me hold this up and show you. So you see, there's a couple of cameras going on. Off to the right, there is this infrared light emitter. Right, I like to call them the lasers, even though they're not as lasers. It's kind of fun.
Actually, you have to do this when you say
lasers, lasers. Right, and so this thing shoots out a pattern of dots, and this pattern of dots then crashes onto the objects that are there, and this camera right here actually sees where those things are shattered or broken.
Okay.
And so what it's doing is when it does that, it can get an array, and so it gets this matrix of every point that it sees, and then it's giving you the millimeter distance away that point is. So in essence, you get a matrix with millimeter distances of how far away everything. So that's the depth stuff. These two cameras work in conjunction. This camera here is just a regular video camera.
Okay.
Your images are 640 by 40, not very good resolution, but you get these images. That's why when you're playing the Kinect games and they make you do something ridiculous, they take a picture with this, right?
Okay.
So you can see that. The last thing that you really don't see is that you have an array of microphones. 4 microphones in here. And so what happens is when the sound comes in, the Kinect can tell you what direction the sound is coming from. Okay, which is pretty interesting. The last thing that's really cool is that this thing can detect up to 6 people and track the skeletons of 2. Right? And so, for example, say you have 2 people standing here and one speaks at the Kinect, the angle at which that speech comes from allows you to associate that speech with the person that's over here.
Okay.
And so it's pretty amazing how this all works. There's a lot of stuff coming through. So again, you have the 3D, you have the 3D sort of not necessarily image, but information coming back. Mm-hmm. You have the regular image, you have the sound, and you have the skeletal information that you can work with.
Okay.
So that's the cool
That's
stuff.
a lot of raw data coming into here.
Yes.
And this DLL is going to abstract some of that away so we can actually work with it.
Absolutely. So let's take a look at how to actually do something. If you wanted to add a reference directly to Kinect, what you can do is you can go to Assemblies once you've installed it and just say Kinect. And you'll see that there's a Microsoft.research.Kinect DLL that you can use.
Okay.
What I've done is I've taken that and I've abstracted it out so you can see this DLL is actually right here for us. What I've done is I've abstracted it out a little bit more so it's a little more C# friendly. I mean, you can tell it was written in C++, but what I've done is I've handled my own event args, I'm handling the Kinect, I set up an instance of the actual thing. If you actually want to run it from the Kinect itself, you have this thing called a runtime. You initialize, tell it what you want, and you open the streams and take it.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a pretty interesting sort of thing that's going on. So you can see that all right here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take what I've already written and make it a little bit easier to use. So the idea here being that when you are looking at, let's see if I can bring the toolbox up again. What we want to do is I'm going to drop a button on there and I'm going to drop a picture edit. Because again, this stuff is coming through at 30 frames a second. And so let me go down to the picture edit here, drop this on. And so here we have this form. This button is going to start the feed. I'm going to move this over here. And again, the image is, as I said before, 640 by 480. So I'm going to set that up right here. So you can see here that the size of the picture is going to be 640 by 40. We're going to go back to view full screen here, and I'm going to make it so that everything fits happiness. Very good. Now that we have this thing, we're just going to use this to pull data out. So I'm going to hit the simple button here and get stuff running. So the first thing we want to do is I want to have an instance of a Kinect. So Kinect is this thing that I have, Kinect, and on the initialization, I'm just going to say Kinect equals Kinect.default. And what I've done is I've done the singleton pattern just to make sure there's only ever one running. I'm going to say Kinect.initialize.
I call it the Highlander pattern.
That's right, the Highlander. Then I set this thing up for a single update. We want the single update to be true. And what that means is I'm just going to get all 3 bits of information from every frame.
Okay.
What you can do in the Kinect generally is you can actually pull just the image data, or just the skeletal data, or just the depth data, and you can do that as well. But I'm going to just pull them all at the same time.
Does Kinect on default imply that you get multiple Kinects?
Yeah,
connected to this?
you certainly can. I know I've seen experiments where they've done 2 and multiple, and it handles multiple of them, so which is a good thing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to handle the event, Kinect.ConnectUpdate. I'm going to say plus equals, and then we have this event going on here. And this event, as you know, is just the one that takes all of the stuff. New event args, and I'll show you the new event args are really just the body, the depth.
Okay, so GUI is the natural user interface, which is the buzzword for describing gestures.
Now again, this is a wrapper that I've done over their stuff, and my library, the DevExpress library, is actually taking and aggregating one thing, because the stuff we get back for the image and for the skeleton is literally just an array of bits.
Okay.
And so I'm pushing them into something more useful.
Okay. Is your library available?
I don't know. I'll have to check. I'll have to see if I can get it up there. Okay. So now what we want to do is we literally just want to give the feed over to the picture. So this picture is, I don't know what it's called. I think it's picture edit 1.image equals e.image. Now, this is not going to work. And the reason why, well, first of all, before I get there, make sure we do Kinect.start, right, because that'll start it. And then the other thing we want to do is we want to handle the event when it stops. So let's get out of full screen mode. Let's take the form, and let's make sure that when the form stops, so let's see, ABCD, form closing, we want to say Kinect stop, because it's got to release stuff. So that's this thing isn't working. So now this is not going to work because the events are actually dispatched from a separate thread. So I have a while loop running that's currently constantly pulling the connector information. That's how it works. And what I do is once I get all 3 things that I want, I wrap it up in a nice event handler and a nice event args, and I just show it off. But that's not going to work. So what we have to do is we have to invoke it. So we're going to say invoke required. Invoke required. And I'm going to say if. It's kind of like asking permission, you know. Can we do this? Invoke required, and then we're going to say picture edit dot invoke, and usually you pass it in a method, a delegate method. Okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say action, and I am just going to create a lambda expression. Right? And the lambda expression is going to be like this. And 1, 2. So looking at this, it looks kind of hokey, but what I'm doing is it requires a delegate, because what it does, it dispatches it and it has it ready to go. It's worth it. And so this is just saying, well, just change this image to that, okay, and we should be ready to go. So let's hit F5, and if it doesn't work, then we'll make it work. I think it works. There you go.
There we are, the DevExpress, or the Dev Connections board for the DevExpress.
And so you can see the camera here, right? So you can see the camera right here, and notice as I turn around, we can see us and others.
So we're on the exhibit floor, and that's why everybody's in sessions right now. That's why it seems empty.
So there you go, and so that's the image there. The next thing that I want to show you is I want to show you the depth. So I'm going to say e.depth, and I can say to depth image, because I have a little helper method that does this. And so now when I hit this, oh, yes, that was dumb of me. I need to actually, I did not add the reference to the actual Kinect API, which was not very smart of me. So I'll go here, add reference, and I'll say Kinect. And I'll put that thing in there. and then hit close. And now when I run it, so and notice it looks kind of strange, but what it's actually seeing right now is the camera.
Okay.
Because everything else is too far away. So I'm going to turn this both on Dave and myself. And what I've done is, if you see this right here, the closer things are, the lighter they are.
Okay.
Right? The farther away things are, the darker they are. And so you see that. So what I've done is I've taken this array of short and I've just made it a grayscale of how far things away.
Okay.
Things are away. So if you look at this, you see that, and then if I point it over here, you'll see like the layout of things as how close they are.
Right.
Okay. So that's what that is doing. Okay. Now the last thing we want to do is we want to do the body, right? Because that's the thing that's interesting. Right now I'm tracking only one body, so I'm just going to say E dot body, and then I can say 2 dimensions. That's what I have, and there we go.
What the body is what?
Oh, good question. So we'll do F12 here. It's just an object that I made that has all of the points. Right? So you have a human body. So we'll hit escape, and now when we run it, you'll see that this thing right here, it doesn't see anything right now. I'm going to turn it around.
Let me stand over here.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Scoot back a little bit. Scoot back. There you are.
There I am. Look
And
at
so
this.
it sees you. And so it's kind of a crazy. It's kind of crazy. It's pretty. I think it's pretty cool when you look at what it is that it's doing. So that's the body. The other thing that I forgot to mention is that there's an accelerometer on the Kinect as well.
Okay.
That tells you motion that it senses.
The motion of me or
Of the
motion of it?
Kinect.
So
if you move it, that's why when you're playing Xbox, if you move it, it says, "Uh-oh, you moved it," right? Because they like for it to stay fairly still to do that, and so that's why it's not getting upset. Okay, so that's pretty much the 3 things that you've got. Now, when you have this body now, imagine the things you can do. I mean, the kind of applications that you can do are pretty interesting. Like, for example, when you see a weatherman, or like if you like college football, I love college football, and you see them releasing the new rankings, they push the screen, right? Or when they want to move stuff around. Imagine in a news environment being able to use the Kinect to actually move stuff around without having to touch, right? That would be cool. Now, another exciting application that I've seen is doctors. When doctors put their gloves on and they scrub up, they are sterile. But they have this screen with the x-rays that they need to move around, right, to see where they're operating. Imagine now they can move it with their hand without touching anything, remain sterile, and do that. Another application is, for example, in retail. Imagine imagine window shopping where you actually put on clothes. That's really cool. So you walk in front of Sears or whatever the favorite store is, and in the window, the Kinect recognizes your body and says, "Would you like to try something on?" Right? Because it has a skeleton, it knows how to fit clothes onto your body. Imagine saying, "I don't like that. I want to change the hat." You move your hand this way. It knows you want to change what's on you, or you want to change what's on your shirt or on your pants. So notice that there's really interesting things that you can do, or maybe you should do, that people just haven't tried because it's still kind of toy-ish. Right? You know what I'm saying? Very cool. But again, it's one of my favorite things to work with because now I'm a fan of math, and now we have these things that it's giving you points in 3 space. You can start to gesture recognition algorithm. It's just, I think it's a really cool little gadget in my opinion.
Okay, that's a great way to get started there. I appreciate the information.
Hey, no problem.
Seth, thanks very much.
Hey, we'll see you soon, brother. I'm glad to be on the show. We've talked about good technology amongst friends, and I think it was good.